Well, good evening once again. Day 128 of the Biden administration. Tonight, we begin with the drama, if you want to call it that, still underway in the U.S. Senate chamber, where members are working late into the night trying to decide whether to establish a formal commission to investigate January's deadly riot at the Capitol, an insurrection that, of course, sent lawmakers and a Republican vice president running for their lives. Remember, just to emphasize, this vote will come in that same Senate chamber that was overrun, desk ransacked as senators were sheltered from those demonstrators. 10 Republicans are needed to join with the Democrats, cross over in order for this measure to pass. Republicans pretty much did get everything they wanted in this proposal for a commission. Nonetheless, their leader in the Senate reportedly personally lobbied his caucus as a personal favor to vote against the commission, largely with an eye toward the 2022 midterms.
I think the basic goal of our Democratic friends is to keep relitigating in public what happened back on January 6th, rather than getting to a quick solution through arrests of those who did it and security adjustments to make sure it never happens again.
Again, his beloved Senate chamber was taken over on that day. His appeals apparently were a lot more powerful than those from the grieving mother of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, who was attacked, as you recall, as he battled the rioters. He died of what were said to be natural causes the following day. Gladys Sicknick, a modest woman who never dreamed she'd be in the public eye, of course, just as she never dreamed she'd have to bury her own son. She spent the day meeting with Republican senators, joining other officers who faced the rioters in a last-ditch effort to persuade them to vote in favor of a serious investigation of the serious violence on that day.
Usually I'm staying in the background, and I couldn't stay quiet anymore.
Just look at the footage of what all these people went through and all these police officers did to make them safe. They put their lives on the line.
Earlier today, there was talk of a move to abolish the Senate filibuster should Republicans try to block a vote on the 1-6 commission. Democrat Joe Manchin of West Virginia, the Senate's crucial swing vote, was asked if he could support such a move.
I'm not ready to destroy my government, no.
Carol, I'd like to begin with you. When Mitch McConnell says, look, there are enough investigations going on into this. The last thing we need is an official commission on Capitol Hill. Remind us the power an official commission would have as an investigative body and what they might be able to answer.
You know, Brian, I think Mitch McConnell is probably focusing more on the midterms than actually the fact-finding that could be accomplished by this commission. All you have to do is look to the 9/11 Commission, right? 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans joined hands and said, this is so important, this attack on our democracy, this attack on our country, basically a declaration of war. We will get to the bottom of how it could happen. That kind of investigation is different than the Justice Department's ongoing probe of various people who attacked law enforcement officers, who trespassed on the Capitol, who brought pipes and bats and flagpoles and fire extinguishers and bear spray to attack law enforcement officers and potentially try to harm and maybe even kill and hang members of Congress. But the 9/11 Commission was able to find, and a January 6th Commission would be able to do this as well, the roots of the security failure. What had we not been able to spot on the horizon before this group of domestic extremists, seemingly very organized, according to the police chiefs who were on the scene, the commanders? What kind of intelligence failure did this represent that nobody in the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, or the raft of police agencies could see what others were fearing might be possible: violence and targeting the Capitol? The other thing that's really critical, again, the 9/11 Commission unfurled, and the January 6th Commission, if it ever got off the ground, could do the same, is the actual planning and organization. One thing about the 9/11 Commission report that is so chilling is the very detailed description of how this group formed. You know, the original hijackers are fairly famous, but there was something else bubbling up. And there was a large sort of plot that had been planned for months and months. And in fact, really began with Osama bin Laden's attack on embassies in Africa. And that was a warning sign the U.S. missed. Well, what were the other warning signs we missed in January 6th, in the days leading to that? Without this fact-finding mission, the Justice Department's not going to answer those questions. This is really the only way to get to the bottom of it.
Chuck, to Carol's exact point, I'm tempted to use phraseology like a failure of intelligence, a failure of imagination, which, if you've got some years on you, brings you right back to that feeling post 9/11. If my math is right, the 9/11 Commission report came out during or right around the time when you were working for one Robert Mueller at the FBI. And tell the folks watching how useful it was to have it looked into and laid out before you, given your responsibility as a Fed.
Yeah, look, I think the 9/11 Commission, Brian, did an excellent job and an astonishing job. It wasn't a perfect report, but it was an incredibly important report. And to what Carol just said, 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats were appointed as commissioners. They had a staff of a couple of dozen people. They did 1,200 interviews, or really, better stated, they interviewed 1,200 people, reviewed 2.5 million documents. They took a little bit under 2 years to complete the report. In fact, they didn't even start until the winter of 2002. I think they were enacted into public law in November of 2002. And look, sometimes it was a painful process for those of us at the FBI while the commission was doing its work. They asked hard questions. They found fault with many of the things that happened at the FBI and at the CIA. But it was fair and it was important. And as the commissioners wrote in the preface, and by the way, I brought a prop, not as good as Carol's book, but an important work. They said, we did this with humility. We came to the process with certain assumptions. It turned out that in many cases we were wrong. We listened to each other. We talked to each other. We changed our minds on occasion. And there was no dissent. They submitted one report, not a majority report, not a minority report, one report. And it helped us understand where we failed, where we could do better, where we had to improve, and how we could try to prevent another catastrophe. They also noted, Brian, it's so fascinating, that in 2002, when they were chartered, it was a time of great partisan divide. We think we are the only ones living in a partisan divide. The only partisan divide exists right now, today, under our very feet. But they wrote about the partisan divide when this commission, the 9/11 Commission, was created in 2002. They put that aside, they overcame it, and they produced an astonishingly important piece of literature. We ought to do it again.